You know what? I'm really starting to see why so many ponies have dreamt about living in castles. I mean, there's plenty of space, it's secure like a strongbox, and the tall structure makes you feel like you tower above all else. Can't believe that I'm finally able to crash in one. Of course, the living arrangements could have been a little better. Dude, what did I say about tormenting the innocent? Sorry for the inconvenience! Hey bronies and Adventure Time fans, it's Finn the Pony. Those who've seen my review know how highly I think of the Season 4 premiere of MLP. And at the time I was curious about the follow-up episode Castlemania, especially since it was coming from Josh Haber, a newcomer to the MLP writing staff at the time. So does this castle-based episode feel like a main event, or will it just scare others away? Well, I say we dive right in and find out. The episode starts off with Twilight frantically searching her library for some information on the mysterious box from the last episode. She doesn't have much of a clue as to what it does, but she does feel that
opening it is pretty important.
Can I tell her?
The box says no.
Okay. Twilight eventually receives a letter from Celestia, with the most flawless timing I've ever seen, suggesting that she visit the library located in the ruins of hers and Luna's old castle. Eager to get some answers, Twilight heads deep into the Everfree Forest to find the ruined castle. Yep. She goes straight through the forest filled with deadly creatures and wild natural phenomena that can end pony lives within seconds, and yet she strolls straight through with no apparent resistance at all. So much for the Everfree being a fear-instilling death trap. Welcome, one and all, to the Everfree Forest. Feel free to visit our gift shop on your way out. After we get a glimpse at our primary setting for this episode, we cut to Applejack and Rainbow Dash in the final challenge to prove who is the most daring pony. And that challenge is having a staring contest while being covered in bees. Shut up. And that's not all. We also find out that Pinky Flanders is back, this time being so incompetent that she doesn't know how to use numbers. Look, I'm all for Pinky being random and goofy. It's one of the funniest things in the show, but being dumb isn't the same as being random. I'm all for a character being stupid for the sake of comedy, but when you've already established Pinky as childlike but still competent, you can't throw crap like this our way and expect us to buy it. Just leave the brain of stupidity to this pink character, alright? So, AJ and Rainbow decide that with the bees gone, they'll need another way to prove who is the most daring. And what's the best idea they can come up with? Why, seeing who can last longer in Celestia's old castle, of course. And hey, if you thought it wasn't odd enough to have Twilight, Spike, Rainbow, and AJ unknowingly be in the same castle at the same time, let's throw Rarity and Fluttershy into the mix too. Yep, turns out that Rarity is also headed to the castle as well, with hopes of locating some of the old-fashioned tapestries and restoring them to their former glory herself. She brings Fluttershy along for this little endeavor, which is a little confusing when you think about it. I mean, I know Fluttershy is a very loyal and helpful friend, but do you really want to entrust the removal and management of large ancient tapestries to someone of Fluttershy's physique? Why couldn't you volunteer Big Macintosh? I mean, that stallion's so strong he could barely lift a cake. Never mind. But that's not all. Guess who Fluttershy decides to bring along? Angel Bunny! Yeah, I'll say up front right now that I don't hate Angel. In fact, on his better days, he could be considered best pet. But there are those episodes where he ends up being so selfish, arrogant, and at times even violent to the ponies and creatures around him that I just want to give him a swift kick in the cottontail and see how he looks. This episode kind of goes half and half, and I'll explain what I mean later. Anyway, with all three of our duos finally present in the castle, the stage is set for tonight's story. Stories. Basically, each of the three pairings goes through their own little adventure while in the castle, unaware of the presence of the other groups until the climax. Probably my favorite story was AJ and Rainbow's. If you couldn't tell from the beginning, their rivalry from Fall Weather Friends has returned once more. But I'm happy to say that Josh Haber actually managed to take that concept and do it better. Those who've seen Fall Weather Friends know how unlikable Rainbow was in it, constantly being both a bad sport and a bad friend, just because Applejack had the ability to beat her in some competitions. But luckily, this episode tosses that Rainbow to the wayside, because all we got here is just a friendly, fair competition to see who the better mare is. I'm not saying it's all sunshine and rainbows between the two, as they do throw down some verbal insults.
I'd be at least 50% less scared of it than you.
But at no point did it reach the levels of hostility or overall unpleasantness that Fall Weather Friends did. As a whole, I really enjoyed watching a genuine competition between these two without Rainbow cheating or being unfair. Not to mention that they come across some pretty interesting things while traveling around the castle, like torches held by severed pony limbs, interesting design choice, and some sets of the most badass looking Royal Guard armor you'll ever see. I mean, look at that stuff. It's like what the Necromancer from Castle Crashers would wear if he was a horse. Though as awesome as it is, it does look incredibly thick and bulky. Man, if you thought the Royal Guard was useless now, imagine them in this stuff.
For honor! For glory!
For town and country! Then there's the Rarity and Fluttershy story. I will say that it did have its high points, but it also had some parts that rubbed me the wrong way. What's the best way to describe Rarity in this episode?
She is a lady on a mission.
Yeah.
And while that did lead to some pretty funny scenes,
Now you look here, Castle. You are very old and very scary, but your wall art is in an atrocious state.
I did have one major problem with it. Rarity is so obsessed with getting these tapestries restored that she ends up having almost zero concern or appreciation for Fluttershy, the friend who volunteered to lend her a hoof. Just look at this scene alone when Rarity asked Fluttershy to take this giant tapestry off the wall.
Be a dear. Fly up there and lift it off that hook. Maybe from below?
First off, why couldn't Rarity just use her magic to get it off the wall? It would have been far more efficient than having Fluttershy, who we all know is not the strongest Pegasus, get it for her. Heck, we even see her doing it to another tapestry later on, so don't try and tell me it just slipped her mind. And that's not all. When Fluttershy falls and hurts her wing, what does Rarity do to help?
That tapestry is far too heavy. We'll just have to find a smaller one.
Pop diddly squat. She just continues on with her quest, not even bothering to lend a helping hoof to her injured friend. Element of generosity, my ass. No offense. And then we have Angel, whose behavior is kinda split in my opinion. On one hand, he does show some concern for Fluttershy's hurt wing, while Rarity just shoves it off, and he does try to get the tapestry mission going by taking lead of the group in the beginning, but he also does things like instantly flee the scene when he accidentally traps Rarity and Fluttershy. Even when he runs into Twilight, he doesn't try to explain what happened, he just starts living it up.
What sort of king is he eating like?
The fat, happy kind.
Oh well, he's better than he is in putting her hoof down, so I guess that's something at least. Lastly, there's the Twilight and Spike story. Definitely the least entertaining of the bunch. With the exception of Twilight invading her mentor's privacy without a second thought, and Spike receiving no comforting support from Twilight despite being extremely afraid of the castle. Seriously, not even a hug? There's really nothing noteworthy about it. Oh, and look! Angel's laughing at the misfortune of others. Isn't that just lovable? Though we got to laugh at his misfortune a few times in the past, so I guess that's fair. While the three stories are going on, they're constantly interrupted by the strange goings-on in the castle. And I do want to say right now that another thing I really enjoyed about Castlemania was, well, the castle itself. Seeing all the interesting secret passageways and trapdoors present in this place made the episode really fun to watch. Also, I'd like to draw attention to exactly what these traps are doing. Notice that there aren't any hostile devices like spikes or spears at the end of these traps. Hell, they're so harmless that Luna apparently used them for fun when she was little. This makes me think back to an episode of Jimmy Neutron, where Jimmy describes the purpose of empty rooms in Egyptian tombs, which is to confuse rather than to kill. And I think these traps might have been built to do the same thing. Either to throw would-be enemies in the castle off track, or potentially keep them in captivity until the guards discovered them. I don't know who built this place, but somebody's gotta hook me up. Stallion and Sons Home Secure. Keeping that annoying corpse smell out of your home since 500. So, after a long time of getting thrown around by the castle, everyone manages to meet up on a Twilight body freeze. Eventually, the group manages to find the player of the mysterious organ music, the Pony of Shadows. And in a shocking turn of events, the Pony of Shadows turns out to be Pinkie Pie.
What a twist!
Yeah, the bad guy in Quest for Camelot was less obvious than that. Though I will say that hearing the whole story of how she ended up in the castle was really funny, and seeing her play the organ the whole time was just adorable. And after the shocking reveal, we get resolutions for all the conflicts present in the episode. Rarity gets to restore the tapestries, Fluttershy gets to see Angel safe and sound, and Twilight gives us our moral for the evening.
Knowing something about the past made it easier to deal with my problems in the present, even the scary ones.
Yeah, I'll admit that this moral does feel kinda shoved in, but overall it's still a very interesting one. I could say from experience that understanding events of the past can be a huge benefit when it comes to dealing with one's life in the present. Maybe someone in the past made a mistake that you can avoid if you learn about it. Or maybe you have a question about something that's unknown to you while someone in the past had already found the answer. Since history tends to repeat itself, learning from the past can be of great use when it comes to confronting present-day problems and even making future plans. Not as good as the moral in Princess Twilight Sparkle, but I still think it deserves some merit.
You cannot tell, but I am giving a thumbs up.
Then we get to one of my favorite parts of the whole episode. After reading the Journal of the Two Sisters, Twilight gets the idea that the main six should have a journal of their own. That way they can not only learn from each other, but future generations of ponies can read about their adventures and maybe learn a few things themselves. I'm honestly glad to see that they managed to find a replacement for the friendship letters. While some may have found the constant spelled out morals to be a little redundant, I always saw them as part of the magic of the show, and I'm glad they're making a return. Plus, even though the main six won't be writing to Celestia anymore, I'm sure she won't be lonely. I write to her all the time. And so our story draws to a close. But not before we get a reveal of the shadowy figure that was following the main six all night. The mighty, fearsome, deadly Sakura? Now there's a twist I didn't see coming. Actually, now that I've seen it, I'm assuming this is a little cameo by our villain for the Season 4 finale. Not going to throw out any names to avoid spoilers, but I will say that this foe makes for one hell of an exciting send-off for the season. So that was Castlemania, and for a first-time writer, this was really enjoyable. Have a cookie, Mr. Haber. While there are a few problems I have with this episode, they're not significant enough to make me say it's bad. There were a lot of parts I did enjoy, like the far more friendly competition between AJ and Dashi, a decent replacement for the friendship letters, and a moral that may seem a bit shoehorned in, but teaches a very valuable lesson. Not to mention that the castle in action was a lot of fun to watch. I'm sure the animators put in a ton of effort, and it shows. Some things kind of bug me, like Rarity's behavior, Pinky's stupidity, and a couple of Angel's bits, but none of them killed an otherwise enjoyable episode. Also, I don't think I'll be surprising anyone when I say that there's really nothing scary in this episode. I think the scariest thing was this stone abomination. Seriously, it's like the love child of Celestia and Mr. Ed. So overall, Castlemania was a lot of fun. Did it reach the heights of Princess Twilight Sparkle? No. But was it as bad as, say, putting your hoof down? Not even close. It had its ups, it had its downs, but all things considered, I had a lot of fun. While it wasn't able to knock the premiere off the first position, it still makes a solid number 2. Shut up. I'm Finn the Pony. And believe it or not, my roomie just told me that he decided to give up his torturous ways. He even threw his dark scepter thingy in the trash. I guess that professional I hired actually got through to him.
You mercilessly torment ponies you meet. You cause them harm without the slightest hint of restraint, and you do it all for your own sick self-enjoyment. Well, now I think you'll start feeling a bit more regretful for such actions, because now you know what it is like to witness such torment. Now you know what it is like to be tortured.
You fixed it! You fixed my scarf! Thank you, sweetie burp.
She's not a sweetie burp. She's a sweetie belle.
Well, whatever he did, this house is torture-free, so I guess I can't complain. So long, bronies and Adventure Time fans, and I hope to see you all soon. I wonder if I can unclog a toilet with this thing.
Come along with me, and the butterflies and bees. We can wander through the forest and do so as we please. Come along with me.
0 point energy. Yeah, I save the best inventions for myself. Am I good?